Chilling tales for dark nights.
Want to make sure you never miss a Chilling Tales for Dark Nights video again? Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to turn on notifications. The following interactive performance is a second-round entry in Chilling Tales for Dark Nights' 4th annual Evil Idol voice acting competition. And you, listener, get to help decide who advances to round 3. Voting is simple. Following the performance, simply click the thumbs up icon on this video if you'd like this contestant to move forward, or the thumbs down if you'd like to see them be eliminated. Voting on this entry will conclude 1 week after the date of its posting. Thank you, and good luck to all of our contestants.
I'm a lot of things. Adulterer, barroom brawler, and if you count the war, killer. But I'm no liar. So it rubbed me wrong to have to fib to my granddaughter when she asked me, who was the strangest person to ever come into my shop? Telling her the truth would have been a sin. No 12-year-old needs to know that the things going bump in the night aren't always products of imagination. She doesn't need to know that monsters are real. Hell, I'm in my 50s and I wish I didn't know. There's no going back. Not after that night. It started out like any other. The sun fell out of the sky fast, plunging Austin's 6th Street Club into darkness. The kind of darkness that seemed to be an open invitation for the city's night things. Neo-punkers, hipsters, and bar hoppers spilled out onto the street. All believed the night was theirs. All believed they would live forever. I own the ink spot tattoo and piercing parlor on the south end of 6th Street. There's a head shop on my left and a new age bookstore to the right where all the young Wiccan gals seem to gather. I see them as they walk by my window, their long hair resting on flowing cloaks. Makes me wish I was 20 again. On this particular August evening, I had just walked into the shop after my nightly viewing of the Mexican free-tailed bats leaving the Congress Avenue Bridge. I had seen it 1,000 times. Watching a black cloud comprised of over 1 million bats leaving all at once in search of food never ceased to fill me with wonder. My assistant Chloe greeted me. How are the bats? Hungry. It was my standard reply. She checked out early that night, leaving me alone to pierce and tattoo the dozen or so college kids that would eventually stagger in. By a little past 11, there were 3 girls in the waiting room and 1 in my chair. I was doing a quick touch-up on a heart-shaped rose that had faded from too much exposure to spring break when, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a very tall black woman speaking with the girls in the waiting area. Didn't notice her come in, but the hum of the needle draws most of my focus. When I had a second to look up, she was handing out money. Each girl quickly snatched some cash from the stranger and promptly left my establishment. Then the woman had the gall to turn my open sign to closed. By that point, my blood pressure was rising, so I stopped work and set the needle on my knee. An angry hand never does good work. The woman strolled to the back of the store as if her actions were the most natural thing in the world. Without addressing me, she looked down at the girl in my chair. Sweetie, how about you come back some other evening, and it'll be on me. The girl in the chair looked at the 2 $100 bills held out to her, then back at me. With a sigh, I held up my hands in surrender and the girl jumped out of my chair. In the span of a minute, my establishment had been cleared out, and I was alone with this tall, gaunt black woman. Her hair was cut so tight around her scalp, I swear it was painted on. She wore a black leather miniskirt, patent black boots, and a tight-fitting blouse with a macabre array of zippers. A long scarf completely concealed her slender neck. She looked Caribbean or Creole, probably from New Orleans or thereabouts. Still pretty pissed, I gazed into her brown eyes. You just sent about $1,000 worth of business out the door, honey. It was closer to 300 or 400, but I'm prone to exaggeration, especially when aggravated. Can you give me one reason why I don't bounce your butt out of here? She reached into her coffin-shaped purse and pulled out some money. I'd never seen a $1,000 bill, let alone 2. I need a piercing done. I heard you were good, she said. In the greedy glare of all those zeros, my anger evaporated. I snatched the bills and tucked them into my shirt pocket. First things first, though. The security cameras, they feed into a VCR? She pointed to the 3 cameras mounted around the shop. Yep. Won't be much help to the cops catching the guy who blows my brains out if they weren't. I pointed to the VCR strapped under my work table. She stepped forward, bent over, then popped the tape out. If you don't mind. Fact was, I did mind, but there were $2,000 in my pocket that seemed to scream, "No you don't, dummy." What kind of piercing do you have in mind? Not me, she grinned, showing her teeth. Him. She gestured to the front of the shop. My first thought upon seeing the figure in my waiting room was, okay, there's a dead man in my shop. But then it started shuffling towards me. Now I've got a walking dead man in my shop. As the man approached, it became painfully clear that he was deathly ill. His complexion was bloodless, and sweat dripped from his features. It was a hot August night, but not that hot, not by a long shot. When he was a few feet away, his body went into some kind of convulsion, flailing against the wall. Creole lady rushed forward, draped his arm over her shoulder, then dragged him back to the chair. Strong gal, stronger than she looked. What's the matter with him? I said. Doesn't travel well. He'll be fine. His face was that of a corpse. I could see dark veins beneath his translucent skin, as if the blood in them had stopped flowing a while ago. I wanted to say, this boy needs a mortician, not a piercing, but I settled for, I think he needs a doctor. They can't help him, she said. Now let's get this done. I looked into the man's eyes. They were hauntingly gray and very old, ancient. I realized at that point that I wanted Creole Lady and Zombie Man out of my shop as fast as I could get them gone. All right, I have a selection of stainless steel posts, studs, and hoops over here. What did... No, I have one. From her purse, she pulled out a small leather box. Embroidered on top was an ankh. It wasn't an uncommon symbol, especially after that movie with David Bowie that I never got around to seeing. Supposed to be Egyptian or some such thing, means everlasting life. She pulled the lid back, revealing a chrome post of a very thick gauge. That's a bit big for a new piercing, I said. It doesn't matter, just do it. I tugged on some rubber gloves and retrieved the hardware from her creepy little box. I need to sterilize it. No need, it's taken care of. She snapped the box closed as the dead man in my chair convulsed again. Besides, there isn't time. She writhed in the seat and leaned forward with his head between his knees until the spasm stopped. When he sat back, his gaze fixated on my throat. His mouth dropped open and released a soft sigh. I swear he was watching the blood flow in my neck. While I was eyeing Zombie Man, Creole Lady had produced a set of handcuffs, and by the time I realized what she was doing, she had finished cuffing her friend's hands to the chair. The ratcheting of the cuffs reminded me how much I wanted them out of my shop. Hey now, I raised my hands. I don't know what you two are into, but I don't do anything weird. Look, maybe we should do this some other time. Your friend here seems real sick and to be honest, a little creepy, so... Creole Lady pulled something else from her purse, then brought it up for me to see. If my mama told me once, she told me 1,000 times. If it don't feel right, it ain't right. The small .22 caliber pistol Creole Lady pointed at my nose seemed to echo Mama's sentiment. Damn, I really should have listened to her more. No more screwing around. Get it done. Now, she snapped. It wasn't the first time a gun had been thrust in my face, but it was the first time I didn't question the gun owner's willingness to use it. All right, where does it go? I tried to sound cool. Left eyebrow will do, she said, gesturing with the gun. I leaned forward to mark the spot with a pen when Zombie Man suddenly lurched outward with his mouth, snapping at my throat like a rabid dog. Jesus! I can't do anything with him bouncing around like that. Creole Lady seemed to have a moment of indecision. Then, in an obviously practiced move, she took position behind the chair and swiftly wrapped her free arm around Zombie Man's neck. With her other hand, she kept the gun aimed at my nose. Let's get on with it, she said. I took up my piercing blade. I pinched the skin above the man's eyebrow and heard a soft fracturing sound, like bones snapping. I thought perhaps I'd broken something on the frail man, but when I looked down, I couldn't have been more wrong. The noise was coming from his open mouth, and I watched in horror as his canine teeth grew a full inch. I recoiled. What the hell is he? Pop, you got less than a minute to get this done, or we're both real dead. Her eyes met mine, and I could see that I wasn't the only one about to piss their pants. When I heard the bone splintering sounds again, I tried not to look, but I couldn't help myself. His mouth opened wider than humanly possible, and the rest of his jagged ivory was growing. His teeth looked like inmates during a prison break, scattering in all directions, escaping the confinement of his gums. "Do it!" she screamed. I reached up for his eyebrow again, and my finger slipped off. I thought it was the man's sweat that was making him slippery, but I took a harder look. Hair was growing out of his forehead. It was thin at first, but in seconds it merged with his hairline and became as thick as anyone's scalp. Then the real noise started. Bone-cracking sounds came from his whole body as he started to reconstruct from the inside out. His mouth pushed forward, becoming a snout barely able to restrain its teeth. The skin on his convulsing fingers splintered and cracked as claws forced their way from the tips, like newborn reptiles bursting through eggshells. "Do it!" she pleaded. I can't even see his eyebrow anymore. Lord have mercy." Diving in, I made a hole somewhere about the eyebrow, or where the eyebrow used to be. As fast as I could, I shoved the unsterilized post in the hole as his teeth snapped at my arm. The handcuffs broke, and his clawed hand flailed. I backed off my stool, hoping to evade the monster's grasp. Creole lady dropped the gun and tried to restrain the thrashing, hair-covered hand. She caught it by the fingers just as the claw and hair started to recede. After several more violent moments and, God help me, howling, their fingers intertwined, and she pulled his hand back down to the armrest of the chair. The face of the beast withdrew, and in its place was one that resembled a Neanderthal, oversized hairy cheekbones and a prehistoric brow. In a moment more, even those disappeared, sinking back into the normal folds of human expression. Creole lady uncuffed the man's other hand. He stretched like someone waking from a long nap, looking much better than he did when he came in. He looked alive. Was I a bother?" he said to Creole lady. "No, sweetie." She kissed his forehead. "We were running a bit late, that's all. Won't happen again, promise." He spun in the chair and looked at himself in the mirror. "Very nice," he said, touching the new pierced eyebrow. Creole lady must have read the confusion that had to be all over my face. "He doesn't have it under control yet. The silver helps." She smiled and turned to her companion. "Let's go. You're on stage in an hour." She dug into her purse again, then stuck a couple of tickets in my shirt pocket. "Come check out the show, Pops." I recognized the venue from the color of the tickets. A god-awful industrial music club down the street. "No thanks. I'm a Crosby, Stills and Nash man." "Suit yourself," she said, then took her friend by the hand and headed for the door. They left my shop arm in arm. Creole lady stopped at the entrance and changed my close sign back to open. Then as quickly as they had come, they were gone. I stared at the reflection of the full moon in the glass on my front window and listened to my heart pound. After my blood pump returned to its normal rhythm, or as close as it would ever get to normal again, I looked down at the tickets. They read, "One night only at the Boneyard. The musical stylings of the Lon Chaney Jr.'s. Yes, sir. I'll tell you what, this is one tale I won't be telling my grandchildren."
Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Steve Taylor, reminding you that if you haven't already, don't forget to cast your vote for this contestant via either a thumbs up or a thumbs down vote. New entries will be posted throughout the month. Be sure to tune in and vote for each of them and help decide who becomes the next evil idol. Until next time, turn turn off the lights and turn on the dark.